at 5 to 9. It is time to turn our attention to the action at Hampden Park tomorrow. I'm delighted to say that Tom English, football writer, joins us on the line. Morning, Tom.
How you doing?
Good. I'm just reading a few of the back pages this morning about John McGinn, and he's given it all the Braveheart stuff about the defeat to Ireland earlier in the year, and you know how they need to set that right. It looks like it's just a matter of how many they're going to beat Ireland by, Tom.
Yeah, well, they weren't very brave of heart against Ireland in Dublin. It was a lamentable performance. I think what he was talking about there was that really affected this Scotland team. They knew they were taken to the cleaners by Ireland, and it was embarrassing for them. So I don't think anyone is thinking, although the result against Ukraine the other night was really good and the performance was excellent, I don't think anyone is taking this for granted at all.
No.
They've already been burnt very badly in Dublin, so I don't think they're going into this one lightly. I can guarantee you that. They're
on a similar-ish kind of trajectory of building themselves up almost on ourselves, and maybe no different either, almost in England in some ways, the sense of the jeopardy of these international windows in terms of the manager's position. And, you know, post that Ireland loss, post the Ukraine loss, there seemed to be a bit of pressure building on Steve Clarke and whether he was up to the job or not. But Wednesday night has really, or has Wednesday night changed the mood of a nation?
It has, yeah. Like the mood before the Ukraine game and before the Ireland game in the summer was very, very good. Scotland were on a really good run. Then they hit a major bump in the road. They threw in that performance against Ireland that no one saw coming. And it kind of shocked everybody that they were that bad. Everyone thought that Scotland had moved beyond that. But certainly Wednesday night has restored a bit of faith. It was really excellent. It was an excellent performance. It was 3-0 going on 5 or 6. Admittedly against Ukraine, who were missing Zinchenko through injury, missing a couple of others, but it was still a good Ukraine side. And Scotland wiped the floor with them. And everyone was very surprised at that too. But you look at the Scotland team, on paper, they are a good team. The 10 of the 16 players who played against Ukraine play in the Premier League. Another one plays in Serie A. Another one is a Celtic captain. And another one is Scotland's Player of the Year last year. So it is a good group of players. Everyone in Scotland is kind of anticipating that there's something very, very good coming down the track for this group of players, because their still average age the other night was 26. But they've got to prove it. They've got to bang out consistent performances. They were doing that before June. Then they had those 2 horrible losses. And certainly they look to have put the wheels back on the bike on Wednesday night.
You wrote after the Ukraine game that it was great to see Scott McTominay in midfield and how important that was, and that you hoped he was going to stick. Do you think Steve Clarke will stick with him there, and it was clearly successful for them?
Yeah, I hope to God he does, Kathleen. I mean, you know, everyone in Scotland just kind of winces when McTominay. Clarke likes to play a back 3. He played a back 4 the other night through necessity. He didn't have that many centre halves, a lot of injuries. Everyone wants Scott McTominay to play in his natural position, which is the centre of midfield. He was exceptional the other night, absolutely bossed the show. But when Clarke moves him back as the right centre half of a 3, he's got his weakness there. And Ireland ruthlessly exposed his weakness there in Dublin. I think he will play in the midfield from now on. I hope he does. Maybe it's hope over expectation. But I hope he does play there. Scotland are a much better side when he plays there. And I would imagine that he will be there tomorrow night.
I was making the point earlier on that it's interesting that Casemiro's arrival at United is going to end up with Stephen Kenny getting the sack, which is an unlikely turn of events.
Well, he's keeping Casemiro out of the Man United team, McTominay, and he's had dog's abuse. You know, as one of their own, he's probably top of the queue when it comes to abuse being dished out by the Man United fans, but he soaks it up. He's like a human sponge for information, as that's what they say, and he also seems to be a human sponge for punishment, because he's had terrible stick throughout his time at Man United, more or less, on and off. But he's in a terrific run of form at the moment.
Yeah, and like when you look at the, I mean, maybe there's clunky comparisons with John McGinn in some regards as well, because he obviously plays really well the other night. He scores, and it certainly made me rush to think why why this level of performance isn't continuing at club level, and maybe more question marks. I don't know. Is the view that he's being held back by Stephen Gerrard, that actually the John McGinn that everybody sees playing for Scotland is the best version of him, and that's ultimately down to Gerrard, or what's the view on McGinn?
No, look, the view on McGinn is that he's eulogised by the fans at every opportunity. Even before a ball was kicked on Wednesday night, they were singing the Super John McGinn song. Like, McGinn he's a curious player. He puts in performances that make you think, gosh, this guy should be playing at higher up the league than Aston Villa. And then he puts in other performances you think, oh no, Aston Villa is actually his level, and maybe even beyond his level. Against Ireland, he was awful. He was awful. Gave the ball away constantly, and was a major problem for Scotland. But the other night, certainly since after when he got the goal and beyond, he looked brilliant. He looked like a Champions League player. So he kind of, I still don't know what to make of John McGinn. He gets these goals. He's a terrific goal scoring record for Scotland. He is the talisman on so many occasions, but his performance level it's not as consistent as it should be.
What do you think Scotland are going to see as the problematic areas for them in the game against Ireland? Like, where are the bits that Ireland can look to target to get a result on Saturday? Because I'm not all that confident that Ireland are going to get a result. I think Scotland are going to manage to do it.
You probably would have said that in June as well. I certainly said that in June. I thought Scotland would win, and how wrong I was. I think the mindset is a big thing with Scotland. If you look at that performance in June in Dublin, they were so passive, and Ireland had a kind of rage for victory that blew Scotland away. Ireland's backs to the wall, and they delivered a very, very big performance. It was similar to that for Scotland against Ukraine. Their backs to the wall, and they produced a big performance. I think if we'll only know the point of weakness in the Scotland team once we see the team. If he puts McTominay back into the defence, which I hope he doesn't, from a Scotland perspective, probably hope he does for an Ireland perspective, then that's a point of weakness, for sure. If Tierney is not playing, there's talk that he might be rested because they need him to play against Ukraine next Tuesday. Scotland without Tierney is not the best version of itself. He is the best player. Tierney is Scotland's best player by a distance, actually. And he just does something to the rest of these players when he's in the side. So if Tierney is rested, that's an area that Ireland can exploit. But with Scotland, as ever, it's all in the head. It's all in the head. They've produced, under Steve Clarke, they've produced brilliant performances, and they've produced horrendous performances. And we know that they have the talent to produce good performances, but have they got the mindset to be that ruthlessly consistent from here on in? We thought they had up until June. Then they got hammered by Ukraine, hammered by Ireland, and everyone's going, hang on, this team is not where we thought it was. So I think a lot of it for Scotland is in mindset, it's in attitude, it's in edge. And they didn't have it in Dublin, but they did have it on Wednesday night.
And like it is hard at that level to implement your plans. If you're Steve Clarke, if you're Stephen Kenny, that the windows of opportunity to work with your team are obviously tight. And Steve Clarke was talking about a lot of the, what did he call it? Was it boring work that they had done after the couple of losses in the summer and ahead of the Ukraine game? So was that that boring work was, it seemed to be like lecture room stuff or whatever away from the training pitch. Set piece stuff, Tom, or what's your understanding about what that was all about?
I think it was about shape. I think it was about shape of the team. Literally walking through on the training ground, the shape, and it's not rock and roll, but it has to be done. And I think the shape of the side was very, very good against Ukraine. Also set piece stuff. I mean, they get Austin McPhee is their set piece coach. He's on the coaching ticket with Stephen Gerrard at Aston Villa. He'll be delighted with 2 goals from 2 corners. So I think stuff like that. But I think primarily shape, because against Ireland they're shape, but they didn't have a shape. I don't know what they were working on that week, but they had no shape. They were all over the place with massive gaps, and Ireland were obviously terrific on the day.
Obviously you mentioned about the set piece goals. Ryan Fraser and Lyndon Dykes off the bench. Fraser 2 assists, Dykes 2 goals, like a masterstroke, obviously from the management team. You take all the kudos for that afterwards. Have they now played themselves into the mix for a start against Ireland, or are they back in the bench?
I think it's a good question, and the honest answer is we don't know. The Ukraine game, Scotland can afford to lose this game tomorrow, but if they beat Ukraine, then they top the group. So it's difficult to know what Clarke is going to do. He gives nothing away. He's kind of heroically kind of deadpan and stoic when it comes to this stuff. Seems like a war with journalists to get a line out of him, and he never gives a line. But I think Hickey, because Nathan Patterson is injured, the Hickey starts at right back. I think Fraser could well start just to shake it up a bit. His rift with Clarke has healed, obviously, and he comes off the bench. I think he was nervous coming off the bench. He thought he might be booed by the Scotland fans. He wasn't, and then he gets his 2 assists, and now he's a hero. Dykes' goal scoring record. Dykes is a very limited player. Shea Adams is by far and away a better footballer, but Dykes' goal scoring record for Scotland is really good, relatively speaking. He's only 3 goals short of the great Joe Jordan's total, So he might well start. I think we're talking maybe 3 changes, something like that. But Clarke, so trying to second guess Clarke is a mugs game.
I'm interested in what you said there, because you said obviously Scotland can afford to lose the game, and they're thinking about maybe resting Tierney so that he'll be able to play in the next game, but also that mentality is incredibly important for Scotland. Surely it's important to make sure that he plays and make sure that you keep the good faith running and keep the game running.
Oh, I hope he does, for Scotland's perspective again. I think it's a high risk if he does rest Tierney. I think it's a high risk because, I'm saying, look, Scotland can afford to lose the game as long as they beat Ukraine. In Poland, that's a big ask. My hunch is that there is a lot of chat that he might rest Tierney. My hunch is that he won't. He certainly shouldn't, in my opinion, because, as I said earlier, Ireland or Scotland are a different team when he's there. I mean, he's played left centre back for Scotland. He's played left full back for Scotland. He's played left wing back for Scotland. He could play left side of a 3 up front for Scotland. He's about 4 players in one, Tierney. Plus, he's a brilliant personality. He is essential to Scotland. Most of Scotland's best results over the last number of years are with Tierney in the team. So to take him out would be a big gamble. You
predicted a Scotland win in the summer, Tom, so I'll invite you to do something similar there if you can sign off with
no problem.
2-0 to Scotland, yeah.
It's very comfortable Scotland victory. Being the worst tipster known to man and womankind, and going for Scotland victory.
Are you actually thinking?
Yeah, look, I think if Scotland, we can't see inside these guys' heads, right? But I think if Scotland's attitude is right, it's a home crowd, it's going to be a sellout. It was very noisy at Hampden on Wednesday. If their heads are right, I think Scotland win this game. I said that last June as well. Their heads weren't right, and Ireland were way better than I thought they were going to be, actually. But I think if Scotland go into the game with their ready for a battle, and they weren't ready for a battle against Ireland in June. They were absolutely not ready for what Ireland brought to the table. If they are ready tomorrow night, I think Scotland should win this game.
All right. Well, if you listen to John McGinn, they certainly are. Pleasure. Tom, thanks a million. Tom English.
No problem.
BBC.
Cheers.
Thanks a million. Enjoy the game of the weekend.